This event that happened to me will always be a reason why I have no trust in strangers. I'm a 25-year-old male from London, and an encounter that happened to me within the last year of writing this has definitely changed my mindset and left its mark on me in more ways than one. It was late summer. Well, the kind of summer we have here in the UK, but it was a period where the weather was good for once, so myself and a group of friends had made plans to go into the city for drinks one night. None of us would be driving, so we could all have a drink and enjoy the night. The night itself was great. We had started early and ended up having a bar crawl and tried out different places, instead of staying in one place for the night. The clubs were packed, as you'd expect for a weekend in the capital, and we made the most of it. It got to the point of the evening where we'd been out for so long, and the drinks were starting to take their toll. Two of the guys we were out with that night had begun to flag, so they had decided they wanted to call it a night and head back, which was cool. But for me and my two other friends, we wanted to stay out a bit longer and have a few more drinks. In hindsight, looking back, I wish we'd all just left together at the same time. So the two guys left getting a taxi home, whilst we continued our drunken antics, knocking back more shots into the night. As we approached the early hours, the rest of us decided we were ready to head home as well, before we regretted the hangover the next day. We didn't really want to pay the taxi prices home from where we were, so we decided we would head to the underground to save us some money, and along the way we could stop and grab some quick food from somewhere. Making our pit stop on the way, we all tucked into a tasty burger, and by that I mean a cheap, greasy late-night fast food burger from the first place we saw. But in our state, it tasted good. Eating as we walked, we all demolished our burgers as we laughed about the antics of the night. As we neared the underground, the streets became desolate. As we left the nightlife behind and approached the underground, we were the only ones in sight. Walking over to the steps, we began to descend down to the station, walking as we discussed which place we enjoyed the most that night. It was then, looking down towards the platform entrance, we could hear a woman crying, and as we looked, we could see her making her way over to us. As she ran, a flustered panic. We slowed as she approached, as she shouted for our help. My friend was the first to ask, was she okay? As we all looked at her, shocked. Through her tears, she began to explain how her friend was down at the platform, unconscious, fearing she had been drugged. That her phone was out of battery, and she needed our help quickly, and to borrow a phone. The emotion she said this with made it seem clear that it was serious. She began to hurry back down towards the platform as we quickly followed, my friend getting his phone out ready to call for help. As we all reached the platform and turned the corner, the woman continued walking, and upon looking, we could not see any sign of her friend. Asking where she was, it was then she turned. Her face, no longer panicked and distressed, but a stone-cold, emotionless look etched across it. Our confusion as to what was going on was short-lived, as within seconds of us reaching the empty platform, a group of 5 hooded and masked figures jumped out on us as they advanced towards us. We were set up, and the sudden sick feeling that coursed through me and my friends instantly sobered us up. As the figures surrounded us, they were like a pack of wolves, vicious in their intent.
"Get the fuck over here, shut the fuck up and give us your phones and wallets,"
one shouted as they dragged us down the platform, as to be out of sight in case anyone did walk down. I couldn't believe what was happening, and as my friend resisted at first, the encounter became terrifying, as 2 of the masked figures pulled out knives, grabbing my friend and pulling him to the floor, before one turned to me, holding the knife to my neck, as the 2 others grabbed my other friend, emptying his pockets.
"You want to die tonight?"
the person asked me. The fear that struck me as he said that, I've never felt anything like it. All I could muster to reply was, "Please, just leave us alone." "Then empty your fucking pockets," he said. As I did, tears began to swell in my eyes, as I heard my friend on the ground scream, as the 2 men began assaulting him, kicking him whilst he was down, as the woman laughed hysterically, watching, taking pleasure in our fear and pain. The fact that he had resisted had pissed them off. Now they were taking it out on him. My other friend shouted for them to please leave him alone, as they had what they wanted. That's when he got a good punch for speaking out. The woman laughed as she called for the 2 men to show my friend on the floor real pain and stab him. And to my disgust and horror, they listened to the sick, demented bitch and gave him a blade in the leg as he squirmed in pain. I thought that was it. They were going to finish the job on us all. The adrenaline coursed through me as I readied myself to fight for my life, my heart pounding. It was then the sound of a train heading down the tunnel in the distance began to echo up the platform. The two guys looking up grabbed all of our belongings as they readied themselves to leave. Not before one final parting, as they dragged my friend to the edge of the platform and left his head hanging over the edge as he lay there in pain. They all proceeded to run as the woman left with them, a sinister smile on her heartless face. The sound of the train neared as myself and my other friend rushed over to our injured, beaten friend and pulled him away from the edge. Our phones, wallets, gone. No way for us to call for help. As the train pulled into the station, it was empty, and as quick as it pulled in, it set off again. We had to get my friend help, so as I stayed with him, my other friend went for help. I had never been as scared as I was that night. We were lured and baited into a trap by a bunch of low-life scum who make their living off robbing unsuspecting people. Luckily, my friend was okay. No serious injuries and the wound to his leg didn't hit any major areas. Items can be replaced, but a life can't. The police investigated, but unfortunately, no suspects were apprehended regarding our attack. The sad thing is, things like this are becoming more common and these people are getting away with it. And that's why I have no trust in strangers, and I'm very reluctant to help anyone out that approaches. If you take anything from this, be careful out there, and be aware of your surroundings if anyone ever approaches you. And to the people who put us through that, I hope you get what you deserve. I live in the UK, based in the North Yorkshire area. Where I live is quite a rural area in the countryside, with backroad country towns and greenery for miles. It is quiet, but yet also not a bad place to live. I was in the process of starting a clothing brand with my friend. To give you a little bit of insight into the type of style we were going for, it was a gothic punk style antiquated clothing, as that's what we were into. That will come in handy so you understand the locations we would go for to look for photo shoots. Just starting out, I wanted to get some cool eye-catching images for an Instagram page and a website to promote well. So we'd heard about and found, just out of town in their countryside, an abandoned farm area located next to a forest. We planned to go there on the night so we could get the images we wanted with the right mood, setting the correct environment to represent our brand and style. There was 3 of us, me, my friend Kieran, and his girlfriend Amy, that we would be using for our female model, as she had the perfect look for what we were going for. It was around 10 PM, and we were heading to our location. We were heading late as we were night owls anyway, and was planning to have a few drinks there and enjoy the night as well as getting some cool pictures. We arrived at a dirt track road that led to the farm, but it was gated off and locked, obviously, as it was now abandoned. But we could see it. It was literally a 2 to 3 minute walk up the track to our location, so we pulled the car in next to the gate, got our stuff and walked up. The area was just what we were looking for, creepy, worn and battered, and there was still a rundown old tractor on the land we used for a few pictures too. I was the photographer, so I was in my element at that point. That's when Amy noticed on the tree line at the start of the forest, there was a long, battered metal gated fence that stretched around the property. When we walked over, we could see a metal gated door broken and open, leading to the forest. It was a great backdrop for a picture. The door itself was bust open with a broken lock and was hanging half off its top hinge. And behind it were 2 metal sheets, clearly put there to block up the entrance. It seems the door was broke, but those 2 were dented, battered and bent open so you could see the opening to the forest. We thought this was a great image for setting the mood for our style. So we began taking pictures. Amy would lean on the metal grid door, holding it as she posed, and then go onto the other side as if she was coming through. As I took the pictures, I looked back at one of the images and thought I could see the outline of a figure next to one of the trees behind her. I took another picture, but with the background being dark and further back, it looked the same. I thought it must have been the shape of the tree. That's when Kieran told us all to be quiet and listen, as he thought he could hear something. As we listened, we could hear in the distance in the forest area what seemed to be whistling. Not like the wind whistling, but a person whistling. We all stood there for a minute, looking into the forest behind the door, but the whistling stopped. As I was about to say something, It started up again, but sounded further back. We found this strange, but being 19 we were intrigued and wanted to know what it was. The only way to explain this at the time is we were fucking idiots. I thought there's 3 of us, let's go and check out and see what the whistling is. The other 2, also curious to see, agreed with me. We made our way through the holes in the metal panels and slowly entered the forest area. It was pretty much pitch black. We didn't have a torch, so literally only had my camera flash and a crap light on our phones, and 2 of us had iPhones on us. And if you have one of those, you know how bad the light on them can be. It hardly lit up anything. We listened out for the whistling, slowly moving in the direction it had come from. We couldn't hear anything now. I thought back to the pictures I took about 5 minutes before of the outline I'd saw by the tree. And that's when I suddenly thought to myself, shit, what if that actually was someone watching us? I know I was slow to think that, but as I said, I was in the moment and intrigued. Becoming freaked with my thoughts, I turned to the others and was about to say let's head back when the whistling started up again, only this time louder and closer. Not only that, but it was now from behind us, the way we came. Amy automatically jumped, now becoming scared, and stood behind the 2 of us. The whistling continued as we tried to see what it was, barely able to see as we'd walked quite far in. We could see the outline of a figure, standing next to the broken gated door, the way we came. Standing there, motionless. We all began to feel on edge. My heart was pounding so fast as the anxiety took over me. The whistling suddenly stopped, and the figure just stood there. Silence now engulfed us, until only the rustling of the leaves broke it. I lifted my camera as the only way to see what it was using my flash. It was like my finger didn't want to press that button, out of fear of not wanting to see. But as I did, what we saw with that flash scared the shit out of us. The flash went off, revealing a huge, slender, crazed-looking old man smiling at us from ear to ear. He literally looked psychotic. He was holding what looked to be a long carving knife in his hand. He let out an aggressive scream as he broke into a run towards us. Amy screamed as Kieran shouted for us to run. The only way we could go was further through the forest. We sprinted as fast as we could, all while hearing footsteps and a crazed laugh following us. We didn't know where the hell we were going, but did not stop, going as fast as we could, crashing through branches as we did. After running for what seemed forever, and distance between us and the psycho chasing us, I whispered for my friends to lower themselves into a little clearing just behind a big tree, in the dark, out of sight. Terrified, we all hid there, trying to get as low as we could. Kieran covered Amy's mouth, as to stop her from crying out so loud. I may have been slow thinking earlier to get myself into this horrifying situation, but I was sure going to try to make up for it and get us out of this nightmare. I had a spare blank SD card on me for my camera, so I took out the one with content on it and put in the blank one. I told my friends I was going to set up the camera on a self-timer in a different location opposite us, but a good distance away. The max I could do was 30 seconds. When it went off, we would wait to see what happened, and then run back the way we came, hoping that it diverted attention. I creeped out slowly. I couldn't see anyone as I crawled my way over to the opposite trees. I set up the camera on a timer. Then, at that moment, I again could hear the whistling, and this crazed fuck started to bark like a dog, probably trying to scare us out of hiding. Adrenaline pumped through my body as I crawled back to my friends and hid. We could hear whoever was chasing us walking close through the forest. The self-timer felt like it went on forever in that moment. When then, the flash lit up the area it was in. As it did, we heard the man break out into a run in the direction of the light, as we saw him come into sight and pass us. We didn't wait too long before we broke out into the fastest sprint of our lives, back the way we came. I felt like I was going to pass out, but couldn't stop for the fear of being caught. We reached the fence leading to the farm, and followed it along until we found the door we had come through. We broke through and ran straight back to the car, not before looking back one more time, to see the man on the other side of the fence, closely following. We dived into the car and pulled off, driving the hell out of there. Thankfully, we never split up or lost each other. I have never been as scared as I was that night. My camera truly did save our lives. We never went back to that place, never wanting to see that man ever again. What I learned from that night was not to be so naive again. So if you're out in a rural area and you hear strange noises or whistling, don't bother going to check it out. I live in the UK, in a place called King's Standing at the back end of Birmingham near Sutton Coldfield. I'm 19 now and have lived here all my life, so I've seen it change over the years. In some ways for the good, but for the most part for the bad. The area has become a lot more crime-ridden and filled with the wrong type of characters, but that's probably like anywhere you live, I suppose. I live with my mum and dad and my 2 younger sisters, and this happened back this past summer, August 2021. My mum and dad had planned for a go-away for the week for a summer break down to Cornwall, where they would be taking my 2 sisters and staying in a seafront accommodation. I had the opportunity to go with them, but had chosen to stay home for the fact that I could hang out with my mates, go out and have the house to myself. They left early on the Friday morning and wouldn't be back until the following Friday. It felt great to have the place to myself. I wasn't the partying type, so I wasn't going to be throwing any big parties, but would have a group of mates around for a little get-together. The first night I just chilled out with a few mates as we played on the PlayStation and had some beers. The second night, we had a few more people round and had a little get-together with a girl I had just started seeing and a few of her friends. It was a fun night. We laughed, listened to music and drank a bit too much as you'd expect. But other than that, we had a great night. It wasn't until the Sunday afternoon, when the girls had left and it was just me and 2 of my friends left, where things went downhill. As we nursed our hangovers and relaxed, we sat there playing the PlayStation. As we sat talking and being a bit too competitive on the game, I heard the sound of a clang out the front of my house. The best way to describe it would be the sound you would hear from a metal bar dropping and hitting the floor. I paused the game as I told my mates to quiet down. We all sat there in silence, as I listened out to what was usually a quiet street in the afternoon. As my window was open, I could now hear what was a jarring, banging sound that sounded like it was coming from my drive out front. I walked over to the window to see what the noise I could hear was. As I looked out, I could see the empty street below, but my eyes soon locked onto a pushchair, lay on its own right out front of my drive. As my friends came and looked out the window, I thought that it was strange someone would leave their baby out front on its own. But it was then my friend nudged my arm, grabbing my attention as he pointed to the back of my dad's work van. Hidden from view by the top of the van, we all soon saw an arm pop out from the side of the van that looked as if it was wedging a bar to the lock of the back of the van. My heart began to race, as it was in fact someone trying to break into the back of the van. My dad had thousands of pounds worth of tools in the back of that van for his business trade. Wasting no time and with adrenaline surging through my body, I sprinted downstairs as my friends followed. I opened the front door and raced over to the van as the doors were now broken open. As I reached it, I saw a built, rough-looking man taking stuff from the van. I shouted for the fucker to get away from the van. The man jumped back, startled as if not expecting anyone to be home. However, he did not run at the sight of me confronting him. He instead pulled out a long screwdriver and aimed it towards me as he shouted in a foreign language. As I saw the screwdriver aimed at me, I honestly became a bit scared. I didn't want the guy to lunge at me and stab me, but there was 3 of us and 1 of him. As the man was occupied by me and my demands, he didn't see my friend come around the other side of the van. It was then, from behind, my friend jumped on him, tackling him to the ground, the man thrashing around trying to hit him with the screwdriver. I dived onto the man's arm, pinning it to the ground as I prized the screwdriver out of his hand, throwing it to the side. I shouted to my other friend to call the police. The man continued to struggle and shout in what seemed to be Romanian. I looked over to the pushchair again as my friend was on the phone to the police inspecting it. The pushchair was in fact empty. There was no baby, only the contents of my dad's tools from the van, hidden under the blanket. The scumbag had been using the pushchair to hold and hide the items that he had robbed, so it would look like he was just pushing a baby up the street. We finally got through to the police, and as we did, my friend swapped places with me. He handed me the phone as he helped pin the man down. I explained to the police what had happened, that we had apprehended a thief that was breaking into the vehicle on my drive, and that we needed assistance now for someone to come and arrest this guy. What I heard next still shocks me now, as the scariest part of this event is not nearly being stabbed by a thief with a screwdriver, but the operator on the other line told me to let the suspect up and let him go, don't harm or assault him, but we're really busy right now and have no officers able to attend the scene. Just let him go and we'll send someone when we can to come and get a statement from you and a description. Let him go? A statement? After this fuck was caught robbing my dad's property? I couldn't believe what I was hearing. After minutes of arguing with the operator and demanding some help and assistance, we had no choice but to let the man up, or get into trouble ourselves if we detained or hurt the guy. Somehow we would be in trouble. Yeah, that makes sense, right? As my friends conceded and let him go, they backed away from him, making sure he could not reach anything as a weapon. The man shot up, cursing at us in his own language, and took off running down the street. That was it. The thief we'd caught, gone, like he had never been there. The pushchair and tools left behind. What good that would do to find this scumbag. I never slept that night, thinking the man could easily come back if he wanted to. After hearing us on phone with the police and the fact he knew they told us to let him go, I bet he was laughing at us. Not until the next day did someone come and take a statement from me about what happened. This happened months ago, and nothing has ever been done about it. To this day it still shocks me, and not the fact someone was trying to rob my dad's van, but to know our own law enforcement has not got time to help you out or provide assistance. I mean, I know they're busy, but what good are they if you're in need of help and all you get told is, don't confront them, let them go and we'll get someone to come and take a statement of you soon. No wonder people get away with anything. And no wonder people take the law into their own hands. What a joke the system can be. And that's the most haunting thing. So, please, look after yourself out there. New crime tactics for theft are on the up, and if you're ever in need, hopefully, you get better help than I did. Thanks for listening. We hope you enjoyed these terrifying encounters. Comment and let us know what you would have done in these situations. And drop a like and share. It really helps the channel out. If you're enjoying the horror and haven't already, subscribe to the channel. We have plenty more terrifying content on the way that we look forward to bringing you. So, until next time, remember, fear lies within.